Every day, headlines flash across our screens, each one hinting at a world in upheaval. China unveils a new hypersonic missile, BRICS nations announce a new reserve currency, African nations sign deals with Beijing, not Washington. European leaders talk of strategic autonomy, signaling a shift away from reliance on America. These aren't isolated stories, they're signals of a world in flux where yesterday's certainties are today's questions. For decades, America set the rules, policed the seas, and its dollar powered global trade. Now that dominance is being challenged from all sides, militarily, economically, and psychologically. The world is starting to imagine a future where Washington isn't the only capital that matters. This isn't a sudden collapse, but a slow erosion of power and influence. When Saudi Arabia pivots toward China, or developing nations turn to the Belt and Road Initiative, it's clear the old order is crumbling. Each headline is a puzzle piece, revealing an empire under strain. The American century, once seen as permanent, is facing its twilight. The world is becoming multipolar, more complex, and perhaps more dangerous. The question is no longer if America's role will change, but how profound that change will be. The signs are everywhere, for those willing to look. The ground beneath our feet is shifting, and the world is watching. America stands at a historic crossroads, uncertain of its future. The unipolar moment is over, the world is now defined by competition and a diffusion of power. China, Russia, and assertive regional powers are reshaping the global landscape. Americans must now confront the limits of their country's role. The old confidence has given way to anxiety and doubt, as endless wars and political polarization tarnish the nation's self-image. The world, too, is weary of an American-led order that now seems unstable and unequal. America faces a stark choice: cling to dominance through force, or adapt and lead as a first among equals. The decisions made now will shape not just America's future, but the world's. With no unified vision, America's path forward is uncertain, its allies unsettled, its rivals emboldened. The giant is powerful, but confused, standing at a critical juncture. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. To understand America's predicament, look to Rome and Britain. Rome's fall was slow, overstretched, drained by military commitments, paralyzed by infighting, and weakened by inequality. Britain's decline was gradual too, bankrupted by war, overtaken by rivals, and forced to relinquish its empire. The lesson: imperial overstretch is fatal. Maintaining global commitments drains resources needed at home. For both Rome and Britain, the military burden became unsustainable, weakening their economies and fueling discontent. Internal decay is just as deadly. Empires rot from within before they fall from without. Rome suffered from corruption and lost civic virtue. Britain from economic stagnation and rigid class divides. When a society becomes divided and its political system dysfunctional, the social cohesion needed for global leadership disappears. External threats are often symptoms of deeper internal sickness. The fall of an empire begins at home. America faces the same dangers: overstretch, division, and decay. The warning from history is clear. Ignore these lessons at your peril. Empires rarely fall in a day. They unravel from within, one thread at a time. The fate of Rome and Britain is a mirror America cannot afford to ignore. The echoes of the past are growing louder. The parallels between past empires and America today are striking. The US maintains hundreds of military bases worldwide, spending trillions on wars while domestic infrastructure crumbles. Political division is at a fever pitch, compromise is rare, and gridlock is the norm. This dysfunction makes it impossible to tackle long-term challenges, from debt to climate change. America's national debt has soared, making the country dependent on foreign creditors and limiting its ability to respond to crises. The sense of shared national identity is fading, replaced by tribalism and fragmented realities. Social cohesion, the glue of any great power, is eroding. Allies grow nervous, adversaries see opportunity. America is financing its present by borrowing from its future, a strategy that cannot last. The foundation is cracking and the world is taking notice. Like empires before it, America's greatest threats come from within. The question is whether it can repair the cracks before the structure gives way. Not long ago, America stood alone as the world's sole superpower. Its military was unmatched, its navy guaranteed global trade, and its defense budget dwarfed all others. The US dollar was the world's reserve currency, and Wall Street was the center of global finance. American corporations and culture, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Hollywood, became global icons. The American consumer drove global growth, and access to the US market was a powerful diplomatic tool. America's soft power was immense. Its universities, music, and movies attracted the world's best and brightest. This combination of military, economic, and cultural power created a global empire. The American century felt permanent. US leadership was taken for granted. But history teaches that no empire lasts forever. The very success of the American-led order enabled new powers to rise and challenge the system. The world that once emulated America now seeks alternatives. The era of unrivaled dominance is over. The question is how America will respond to the new reality. The world is waiting for an answer. While America was distracted by wars and division, China was rising. China's economic miracle has lifted hundreds of millions from poverty and transformed it into a full-spectrum competitor. It's now the world's factory, the largest trading partner for many nations, including US allies. The Belt and Road Initiative is building global infrastructure, creating economic and political influence. In technology, China is closing the gap, leading in 5G, AI, and quantum computing. Beijing is pouring resources into innovation, aiming for technological dominance. China is modernizing its military and challenging US power in the Pacific. It's building its own institutions and promoting an alternative to Western democracy. The rise of China isn't just about competition, it's about a new vision for the global order. The world is watching as the balance of power shifts. America's economic weaknesses are stark. Decades of outsourcing hollowed out the manufacturing base, devastating the middle class and creating economic despair. The US is now dangerously dependent on imports, especially from China. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed this vulnerability. As America struggled to produce basic goods, national debt has soared past $34 trillion, much of it held by foreign rivals. Servicing this debt crowds out investment in education, infrastructure, and research. The cycle is vicious. Lost jobs weaken the middle class, reduce tax revenue, and force more borrowing. This dependence and debt make America vulnerable and less able to invest in its future. It's the classic pattern of an empire living beyond its means. The economic foundations are cracking, threatening America's global power. The warning signs are clear. If ignored, decline will accelerate. The time to act is running out. The most dangerous threat to America's power is the erosion of its social fabric. Soaring inequality and a squeezed middle class have bred resentment and eroded belief in the American dream. The cost of living has skyrocketed, while wages stagnate and debt burdens grow. Economic insecurity fuels political extremism and social unrest. Trust in institutions, government, media, even each other, is at historic lows. Competing narratives of grievance have replaced unifying stories. The nation's optimism has faded, replaced by nostalgia and fear. A divided, pessimistic country cannot lead the world. The fraying social fabric is not just a domestic issue, it's a national security crisis. Internal decay has toppled empires before. America is not immune. Efforts to reverse decline have been too small, too slow, and mired in political infighting. The forces of globalization, technology, and polarization are powerful and hard to reverse. Political dysfunction blocks meaningful change, as short-term interests override long-term needs. There's no consensus on the problems, let alone the solutions. The American-led order is ending, but what comes next is unclear. Will China dominate? Will chaos reign? Or can America reinvent itself for a new era? History's not destiny. The final chapter is unwritten. The world waits to see if America can adapt, heal, and lead once more.